Of all the local derbies in La Liga, the Barcelona Derby between RCD Espanyol and FC Barcelona has been contested more than any other. And while it may not be the most balanced rivalry from a sporting standpoint, with Barcelona undoubtedly the more successful of the two teams both from a head-to-head point of view and a silverware one point of view, Espanyol deserves some respect for the important role they've played in the early beginnings of the major competitions in Spanish football. Hey, how are you? I'm Adrian, and welcome to Rabona TV's Roots of the Rivalry, the series where we look at the humble beginnings of the two clubs involved, and then navigate the cultural and political aspects that contribute to the rivalry. Before we start, I know I'll have people commenting, you forgot to mention this match or this cup that this team won, and as much as I would love to chronicle the entire history of each club, there isn't enough time for that in this series. Maybe in another series. But this one is to explore the things that drive the teams apart, not so much their entire histories and what has unified them at times in the past. And so with that said, let's get to it, starting with the early beginnings of Espanyol. Real Club Deportivo Espanyol de Barcelona, we'll just go with Espanyol to save some time, was founded in October of 1900 by University of Barcelona engineering student Ángel Rodríguez Ruiz. Together with some other students from the university, they named their newfound club Sociedad Española de Futbol. According to the club's history books, the name had more thought to it than you would think, as Ruiz and the other students wanted to emphasize the fact that their club was made up entirely of Spanish players that were from the country of the club's origin, which was a rarity for many clubs across Europe, big and small. In fact, Espanyol is believed to be the first Spanish club that was founded by and made up of solely Spanish players. As for the colors that they chose, you may know them now for their iconic blue and white stripes, but Espanyol started out with yellow kits. Like most situations, the kits were chosen simply out of convenience, as apparently club founder Ángel Ruiz had a friend who was in the fabric industry, and he was happy to help Espanyol with their need for kits. And so with a ton of extra yellow fabric lying around, a marriage of convenience led to Espanyol wearing yellow for the first decade of their existence. In fact, their original club badge was yellow and red, much like the colors of Catalonia. Just quickly, while we're on the subject of club colors, they changed to the blue and white that you're familiar with in 1910. Why blue and white? Well, it was an homage to Roger de Llúria, a naval commander out of Barcelona whose coat of arms bore a blue and white striped shield, as he fiercely defended the interests of the Kingdom of Aragon, which was located in present-day eastern Spain, but included parts of Sicily and Greece as well. Okay, back to Espanyol as they competed in the Copa Macaya, which was the Catalan football championship, in the 1900-1901 season. In fact, this league was the first in Spain, but Espanyol's first season in the first league in Spain wasn't much to remember, losing 4-1 in the first ever meeting with Barcelona. They won 3 matches that season, but only played 4 of their scheduled 8 matches, finishing third. The first major tournament they played in was the Copa de la Coronación in 1902. The first and only edition of that tournament, at least under that name, as it would receive some tweaks and go on to have a very familiar name, the Copa del Rey. Espanyol played in the first match of the tournament against Vizcaya, a team from the Basque Country, and while they lost, they scored the first goal of what is now a historic tournament. The goal scorer? Pons. But as for their first title, Espanyol were Catalonia Championship winners in the 1902-03 edition of the competition. But there were only 3 teams competing, as both FC Barcelona and University Club withdrew from the competition after Barcelona were docked points for fielding an ineligible player. Regardless, Espanyol seized the opportunity and proved it wasn't a fluke in the following season, going undefeated across 16 matches, including a 4-1 victory over rivals FC Barcelona. So, when you look through the names and badges of clubs in Spain, I'm sure you've noticed, it's impossible not to, that every team with Real in their name has a crown on their badge, with Real of course translating to royal and the crown depicted being that of the Spanish monarchy. Well, Espanyol was awarded with the royal title on April 25th, 1912 by King Alfonso XIII. This association with the crown is actually one of the precursors to the rift between Espanyol and FC Barcelona. But we'll keep that in mind for later. Because speaking of Barcelona, let's take a look at their foundational history, which repeat customers of Roots of the Rivalry will have heard already, but I'm going to add a lot of details to it this go around to paint a better picture. I feel like I was a little brief in the last video. Where Espanyol was founded strictly by Spanish students, Barcelona's foundation was thanks to a group of expats. Hans Gamper, or Cans Camper, or John Gamper if you're in Catalonia, it goes by many names, moved to Barcelona from Switzerland in 1898. He was on his way to Africa to set up a trading company, but stopped in Barcelona to visit his uncle. Upon arriving in the city, he immediately fell in love with that region, and his visit became permanent. Gamper spent much of his time playing football with his friends and helped with the publication of a local paper called Los Deportes. In fact, he used the paper to publish an ad where he sought out like-minded football fans and individuals who wanted to form a football club. The ad said that he was, quote, wishing to organize some matches in Barcelona, requesting that everyone who likes this sport contact him and come to his office Tuesday and Friday nights from 9 to 11. 1 month later, on November 29, 1899, 11 men from Switzerland, Germany, England, and Catalonia attended the meeting and founded Football Club Barcelona, with their first club director or president being another Swiss expat named Walter Wild. As for the newfound club's first badge, they kept it simple, using the badge or coat of arms of Barcelona, further deepening their ties to Barcelona and Catalonia in general. However, in 1910, they created an entirely new badge, which is closer to what you see the club using to this day. It's had minor little changes throughout their history. Their kits, they didn't always have the iconic vertical stripes that they're known for today. Their first kits were half claret, half blue with white shorts. How they came to choose these kits isn't known for sure, though it is suspected that, once again, the kit choice was a simple matter of convenience. Two of the founding members of the club were Arthur and Ernest Whitty from England, with Arthur, the older brother, founding a trading company in Spain to bring goods back and forth from England. Arthur Whitty allegedly used his business to import kits from the rugby team at Merchant Taylor's School in Merseyside, which, of course, were claret and blue, and Barcelona have used these colors ever since. As far as I can tell, this is the accepted history of the famous Blaugrana, though most sources are hesitant to say that this is the definite reason as to why they boast these colors. Some sources say that Gamper's old club, FC Basel, served as inspiration for FC Barcelona's colors as well, though Barcelona's official history books suspect that the most likely scenario was the Whitty brothers one. Barcelona played in and won their first trophy in 1902, which was the Copa Macaya, which you'll remember that name from speaking of Espanyol earlier. It was also in 1902 that they would meet their future bitter rivals, Real Madrid, in the Copa de la Coronación semifinals, played on May 13th at the Hippodromo in Madrid. The winner of this match? FC Barcelona, thanks to a brace from Udo Steinberg and a penalty from Gamper himself. In the final, they would lose to Vizcaya, however, as the Basque Country team was far too good. Now, let's shift gears for a bit and look at these two teams from a sporting point of view. So, is this derby a competitive one? As in, are they evenly matched as far as achievements and head-to-head results? Well, I mean, to put it simply, no, not really at all, to be honest, as Barcelona has been dominating their rivals since they first met way back in the early 1900s. But to give you an idea of how dominant Barcelona has been, as things stand right now on March 29th, 2019, they have met 169 times in La Liga, with Barcelona claiming 98 victories to Espanyol's 34, 64 more wins for Barcelona. 1929 was a big year for Spanish football in general, with the founding of La Liga, or simply the Primera División as it was known as back then. Espanyol and Barcelona were two of the founding members of the competition. The two teams had differing fortunes that season, but both ended happy. FC Barcelona can forever boast that they were the first ever champions of La Liga, while Espanyol can forever boast that, just like in the Copa de la Coronación, they scored the first ever goal in La Liga. The scorer? Pitus Prat, on the opening day of the season, February 10th, 1929. And while Espanyol didn't have a great season, finishing 7th out of 10 teams, they did have a massive success in the Copa del Rey. In the quarters, Espanyol overcame Atletico Madrid 7-5 on aggregate, and in the semis, they had to overcome their local rivals, FC Barcelona, who hadn't conceded a single goal in their last 4 Copa del Rey matches. After winning the first leg 2-0, a 1-1 draw was enough to see Espanyol through to the final against a rampant Real Madrid side that had scored 38 goals on their way to the final. 38 from the round of 32 all the way to the final, and they conceded just 7. In what was later known as La Final del Agua, due to the flooding of the pitch, 25,000 spectators packed La Mestalla to witness Francisco Tena and Crisant Bosch score a goal apiece to give Espanyol an extremely unlikely victory over the Madrid Giants, their first Copa del Rey of the 4 that they've won until this point in time. Speaking of the Copa del Rey, of which Barcelona has won 30 titles, there has been one Barcelona derby in the Copa del Rey final, which was in 1957, or at that time, since Spain was still in the middle of the Franco era, it was temporarily called the Copa del Generalismo after General Franco. Despite Barcelona finishing 9 points ahead of Espanyol in the league, Espanyol didn't lose to Barca on either occasion during the season, defeating the Blaugrana 2-0 at home and tying 1-1 at the Camp Les Corts, Barca's old home. But in the Cup, though the final was played at a neutral ground, it was held in Barcelona at the iconic Montjuic Stadium in front of a crowd of 75,000 people. It was an extremely close match, but in the 80th minute, Barcelona's Francisco Sampedro scored what was the eventual winner and gave Barca their 13th Cup title.
Cuatro del segundo tiempo, el Barcelona marca el gol de su triunfo por medio de Sampedro al rematar una falta sacada por Brugué.
And while Espanyol perhaps hasn't had a high-profile cup-winning victory over Barcelona, they at least denied them of a league title back in the 2006-2007 season. Let me set the scene for you. Barca and Real Madrid were tied on 72 points each, with 2 matches left in the season. Real Madrid were playing away to Real Zaragoza, while Barcelona were at home against Espanyol. After a 19-year-old Lionel Messi punched the ball into the back of the goal to make it 1-1, really copying Maradona there, eh? He added a second later to put Barca in front, 2-1. Jumping to Real Madrid, in the 89th minute, Ruud van Nistelrooy scored to make it 2-2 against Zaragoza. At this point, Barcelona would be going into the final match in first place, though if Real had found a winner or if Espanyol could find an equalizer against the rivals, Real would be in the lead due to superior head-to-head results against Barcelona. In the 89th minute, Espanyol's Raúl Tamudo was played through and he slotted it past an on-rushing Victor Valdés. You could hear a pin drop in the Camp Nou.
Van Nistelrooy per marcar l'empat a 2. Havia tret en primera instància César, que crida i maleeix tots els... Atenció, Tamudo, gol! Tamudo, gol de l'Espanyol.
2-2. Real Madrid take the lead in the title race and go on to win it with a 3-1 win over Mallorca on the final match day. Tamudo's goal and the repercussions of it would henceforth be known as the Tamudazo, and Tamudo would be booed every time he returned to Camp Nou. So, to the root of it, what is it that divides these two clubs? Well, the first aspect of it is, of course, the fact that this is a true local derby, as both teams are located within the metropolitan area of Barcelona, with their present-day stadiums being just a 6.5 kilometer drive from one another. When you're sitting right on top of each other, the natural turf battle mentality is bound to kick in. You always want to be the better team in the city. But then there's the added aspect of the founding of the respective teams. As we now know from diving into the foundational history of the two teams, one was made up entirely of locals, Espanyol, while the majority of Barca's founding members were all expats from Switzerland, Germany, and England. So just based on that, one would assume that Espanyol would be more representative of Catalonia than Barcelona, right? Well, it gets more complicated. Remember how King Alfonso XIII granted Espanyol their royal title in 1912? This was one of the many happenings that contributed to Espanyol's reputation of being the Catalonian team that would simply bend to the desires and the commands of the government of Spain, both the monarchy and the central government. As Antonio Miseroli put in his academic journal titled European Football Cultures and Their Integration, the Short 20th Century, quote, Barcelona, especially during the Franco regime, became a sort of symbol of Catalan pride and opposition, as opposed to Espanyol, considered instead a symbol of compliance, end quote. Now, of course, we have to remember that no matter what the allegations are that are thrown in each direction, they aren't always representative of a club, their fans, and club culture as a whole, as there is always exceptions to the rules, so keep that in mind, please. But they do contribute to the rift that divides the two teams and become a real moot point. So with that in mind, during the Spanish Civil War, while supporters of FC Barcelona were on the side of the nationalists in Catalonia, a prominent Espanyol supporters group allegedly joined the ranks of the fascist Falangist group, something that Barcelona's fans never really let the Espanyol fans forget. And this feeling of betrayal against Catalonia by Espanyol allegedly goes back further. In 1918, while Catalonia was looking to become an autonomous nation while working with the Commonwealth, as you've probably guessed by now, the Barcelona supporters were on the side of those calling for revolution and autonomy, while allegedly, Espanyol supporters petitioned against the autonomy of Catalonia, given their ties to the crown and the central government of Spain, hence the reputation of being compliant. Of course, nowadays, much of these sentiments have faded, and you'll find Espanyol fans who call for independence, just as it's not impossible to find Barcelona fans that aren't pushing for Catalan independence. So now, with these two teams meeting for the last time in the 2018-19 La Liga season, Barcelona has the chance to make it a full decade without a single league loss to their local rivals. That's it, guys. That's all I have to say to send you on your merry way with a head full of, hopefully, at least some newfound knowledge on this derby, and maybe some respect for Espanyol's involvement in Spanish football. You know, first goal in La Liga, first goal in what would later become Copa del Rey, etc. If you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you're new to these parts and want more videos like this one. I'm Adrian. Thanks for spending your valuable time watching, and have a great day. Later.